Hello. Police from across the UK have been training with water cannon and armoured Land Rovers ahead of their deployment to the G8 summit in Northern Ireland in 2 weeks' time. Such tactics are used frequently by the Police Service of Northern Ireland but are not commonly deployed in Britain. Mike Sargent, our local government correspondent, reports from Belfast. You can find out more on that story at 6 o'clock on Breakfast. That's when Bill Turnbull and Susanna Reid will be covering that, as well as all the other day's news, business and sport. That from Bill and Susanna on this channel, 6 o'clock Breakfast. They'll see you then. Hello, you're watching BBC World News. I'm NAGA Munchetty. Here are the top stories this hour. It's time for the newspaper review. This is where we take a look at the stories which are making headlines around the world. We're going to begin with Le Figaro because it's commenting on the disturbances in Turkey. The paper says that tens of thousands of Turks have revolted against the outmoded government of Prime Minister Erdogan.
The Guardian is saying British ministers are promising to introduce a broad package of measures to regulate parliamentary lobbying after the latest cash for influence expose.
The Financial Times predicts that Apple is set to lose its crown as the world's most popular app platform. It says that Google is increasing its share of the market by developing a wider range of Android apps.
China Daily features a picture of the Chinese president on a visit to the Caribbean islands of Trinidad and Tobago. The paper highlights the closer economic ties China is establishing with the Caribbean and Latin America.
The Times focuses on a number of major retailers who are being fined for failing to pay interns the minimum wage, or in some cases, any salary at all.
And the Telegraph highlights some of the unusual compensation case the British Ministry of Defence has been forced to pay out. These include £2,200, that's just over $3,300, to the owners of a parrot that collapsed and died after a low-flying jet roared over the house. Yes, indeed. There's more on that in that story.
I don't want to laugh. I know it's really sad for the parrot owner, but the story gets funnier. It does. Cornelia Meyer, CEO of MRL Corporation Business Consultancy, is with us. Now, let's turn to serious events.
Cornelia.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's turn to serious events first. Now, look, what is happening in Turkey? You have a particular interest in this. We need to declare this now, don't we? Because you have quite a lot to do with the business community there.
I'm on the advisory board of the Istanbul Finance Summit, which is sort of the Turkish way of saying, look, we're here economically, and Istanbul is a financial center in the Middle East.
So what is that going to say, or what's going on there at the moment going to say about business there? Or how's it going to affect it?
Actually, I hope it will not affect it, because if you look at how Turkey has done in business-wise, it's economically has done wonderfully, and it really has lifted tens of millions of people out of poverty and made an aspirational new middle class. It's sort of known as the next part of the next 11, which is, you know, after the BRICS, the next 11 countries that will really provide growth to the world. So probably not good for business. It's very, you know, the region is on edge. You know, we had Tahrir, we had the Arab Spring, then we have all the things that go on in Syria, in Iraq. The region is on edge, but I would not compare this to Tahrir Square, because what you dealt with in Egypt was you had a regime that had been in place for decades, and there were no real elections. Erdogan was really elected in fair and free elections.
Are you surprised to see this kind of
I'm very surprised.
protest?
I'm very
and
surprised.
The response to it as well on the part of the police.
I was surprised about the response. That was unfortunate, I think. And when I look at, you know, running a country like Turkey, you have the centers like Istanbul, Izmir, you know, very liberal, very free. But then you have a lot of the population that's very conservative, that lives, you know, on the border to Iraq, on the border to Iran.
Which is what Erdogan is accused of promoting, this conservatism, this religious conservatism.
Yes, but if you run the country, you have to be the prime minister for everybody. So yes, he himself is religious, But if you look at where the majority of the people live, a lot of the people live out there in the more conservative part. So it's not easy to run a country like that. It's just
but it's
not
something
easy.
we have to keep a very close eye on, isn't it? What's
Absolutely,
happening there.
and the region is so on edge. You know, look, they're sitting next to Syria. They're having so many Syrian refugees that are coming in. It's tough. It's a tough balancing act.
Let's talk about what's happening in the UK. Lobbying now. What's happened is a minister has been caught or has been secretly filmed. It's a project by the BBC and the Telegraph. A minister has been filmed accepting money for consulting, and then that has been linked, even though he has denied any link, to lobbying this issue in Parliament or passing a series of bills in Parliament. 3 peers have quit now. 2 Labour peers have been suspended from the parliamentary party. Another has been forced to resign. So this is bleeding through all parties. But the way lobbying is done in the UK needs to be clamped down upon, and David Cameron recognised this, but it still doesn't seem to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. He said in 2010, he said there should be a law on lobbying and the register, and it's not where people have to declare interests, and it has not happened. And it's actually outrageous. You know, people who are life peers, you know, have been ennobled by Queen and country, and are prohibited by law from using their position in the Lords for their own commercial gain, sort of blatantly ignoring it.
It's clearer in the United States, though, isn't it, the way lobbying's done?
Absolutely, and I think we need clarity, because this is just not right.
Right, let's have a look at the Financial Times. Various stories on their front page, not least Google set to download its way past Apple in app platform rivalry. Now, this is something they're predicting could happen in the next few months. And it would be quite a shift, wouldn't it? Because Apple has dominated when it comes to apps.
Absolutely, and that's why the iPhone, one of the reasons why the iPhone was so popular. And if you read in this story, it says right now Google apps for the Android systems, it's 2.5 billion a month that are downloaded, and only 2 billion for Apple. So they're catching up really fast. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting, and especially as Apple now doesn't have Steve Jobs anymore and that creative edge, so they will need to sort of come up with the next best thing.
That's what everybody is saying. The question is, what will it be? There's this discussion about this watch. An Apple Watch,
but I like
on which you can do all sorts of funky things. But and, you know, that's the speculation.
And did you see the Google glasses? That's rather cool. You know,
where you have the
glasses.
Yeah, we've had that conversation. I'm not sold.
Lots of
I'm not sold. I'm
issues
not sure.
with the Google glasses.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the China Daily as well. Now, we've seen the Chinese Premier, President Xi Jinping, travelling everywhere at the moment. There have been links with India, there have been links with Bangladesh, now they're over in the Caribbean. And it's interesting to find out what the Caribbean is going to get out of this. It comes down to technology, doesn't it?
It comes out of technology, if that is the case. I mean, obviously what he wants access to mineral resources and to energy, to oil and gas. And, you know, Trinidad and Tobago, which we have here in the paper, they have great, you know, they have wonderful LNG trains and can export lots of LNG. So he wants access to resources. The question is, how much do the countries, the recipient countries of these investments gain? If you look at Africa, very often the countries said, oh, we want a stadium built, we want a railway built, and it was built. But the Chinese would ship in their own laborers to build it. So there was very little in terms of employing local people and creating employment. So let's hope they're improving on that.
I was going to say, because the place in the world where China is very dominant, where again it's about minerals, isn't it? It's about resources, Africa.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of like a sort of blueprint for how it operates elsewhere in the world, would you say? So you can look at how they do things in Africa and assume that's how it will go in Latin America.
Absolutely. But I think in Latin America they will have to be just a wee bit more careful, because it is the backyard of the United States. So it will be very interesting to see how the United States react to this, increased overture of China towards Latin America.
I think anyone looking for a job at the moment, and there are many, we need not highlight the jobless rates, we talk about this a lot, will be quite pleased to hear that in the UK, the Inland Revenue is cracking down on unpaid internships.
Oh, I think that is very good, because it's outrageous that young people who have their first jobs should pour their souls into what they're doing, should not get compensated. I think the revenue needs money, and this is as good as any a place to clamp down.
I think particularly when they've given a long period of service to a company. I mean, if it's a week's work experience, I'm sure you did it, we all did it for free, but this is particularly on longer term internships and being unpaid, so basically getting free workers.
And it's especially sort of the creative industries like, advertising and so on. The media and sort of some of the high sort of retail, fashion and so on. So it's the places where so many people want to go and there's so few jobs.
Yeah, I know. Right, Daily Telegraph, the RAF jet, or RAF jet, should I say, and the dead parrot. Explain, Cornelia, what is this about?
Are you sure this is not a script of a Monty Python sketch?
April the 1st today, is it?
No.
It's the RAF jet sort of overflew the house and the parrot died of heart attack. It's very sad for the poor beast.
But they got a lot of money in compensation.
It's absurd. It's absurd.
It is absurd in a way, but they've had £900 paid for damages to child's trampoline in Lancashire, but also cows have stopped producing milk and chickens have stopped laying eggs because of these claims.
But how do you prove it? My question is, how do you prove the causal link here?
It's a nice note to end on, Cornelia. Always a pleasure having you with us.
Thank you.
Sally and I will see you soon.
Bye-bye.